Princess Ilara sat quietly by the tall window of her room, her hands resting on the polished wooden arms of her wheelchair. Outside, the twin suns of Virelia painted the sky in shades of gold and rose, their light falling across the palace gardens below. The soft hum of hover drones and distant bells reached her ears, but she barely noticed. For 15 long years, this was the only view she had really known, the view from a seat that kept her confined to one place. Ilara's life had changed in a single moment, so many years ago. She remembered it as clearly as if it had happened yesterday. The accident had been sudden, mysterious, and cruel. One day she had been running across the royal courtyard, the wind tugging playfully at her hair, and the next, she had been lying on the cold marble floor, unable to move her legs. The best healers and advanced technologies of Virelia had tried everything, but nothing could restore her mobility. At first, the princess had fought despair with fire. She had demanded treatments, experimental procedures, even the risky surgeries that others would not dare try. But the years passed and her hope dwindled. Soon she found herself avoiding mirrors, avoiding the curious eyes of visitors, and retreating into the quiet of her chambers. The palace was beautiful, but it felt like a gilded cage. Ilara could watch the world outside, but the world could not reach her. Still, despite the shadows of despair, a spark of curiosity remained. Ilara was not one to surrender completely. She had always been fascinated by machines, especially old Earth stories about humans who could build incredible devices with nothing but metal, wires, and imagination. She spent hours studying the ancient robotics manuals her tutors had saved for her from interstellar archives. Tiny diagrams of moving limbs, circuits, and sensors filled her mind. Her fingers would trace the pages as if she could feel the life inside the machines. "I will walk again," she whispered to herself one evening, her voice barely audible above the soft hum of the palace lights. It was more than a promise. It was a dream she refused to abandon. Her attendants knocked softly at the door and entered. They were polite, careful not to disturb her mood, yet their eyes always betrayed a tiny measure of pity. Ilara hated pity. She forced herself to smile as they wheeled her to dinner, her back straight, chin held high, even though her legs would never move again. "Your Highness," answered Leora, her chief attendant, "the Council has discussed the upcoming state visit from Earth. The human delegation is scheduled to arrive tomorrow." Ilara raised an eyebrow. She had heard rumors about the humans, strange, persistent creatures from a distant planet, known for their ingenuity and stubborn optimism. She had studied them through the palace archives, fascinated by their ability to survive and thrive in the harshest conditions. If there was anyone who could make a difference in her life, perhaps it was them. "Humans?" she asked, curiosity flickering in her golden eyes. "And they are coming here to Virelia?" "Yes, Your Highness," Leora replied. "They are renowned inventors. Some say they can create machines that mimic life itself." Ilara smiled faintly. Machines that mimic life. If they were truly capable, perhaps they could help her. For the first time in years, she felt a shiver of hope. The next day, the human delegation arrived. The palace was bustling with preparations, servants scurrying, drones buzzing, and guards stationed at every entrance. Ilara watched from her window, her heart beating faster. The humans were unlike any other visitor she had seen. Tall, confident, and carrying strange devices, they moved with purpose. At the head of the group was a man who seemed older than the rest, but had a sharpness in his eyes, a spark of curiosity that made him seem alive in a way that others lacked. "Dr. Cale Donovan," she read from the visitor's nameplate, "the one who can make people walk again." Ilara's pulse quickened. Could it really be true? Could a human invent a machine that would let her walk after 15 years in a wheelchair? That evening, after the formal greetings and discussions with the council, Dr. Cale requested a private audience with the princess. Ilara's heart raced as she was wheeled into the human's workshop, a room filled with strange devices and glowing panels. The air smelled faintly of metal and ozone, and intricate robotic limbs were displayed like trophies. "Princess Ilara," Dr. Cale began, bowing slightly, "I have heard of your courage. I must say it is an honor to meet you." Ilara studied him carefully. He was unlike any human she had imagined. His hands were steady, his eyes bright, and there was a quiet confidence in the way he spoke. But more than that, she sensed something rare. He believed in possibility. "I have heard," he continued, "that you wish to walk again." Ilara's lips curved into a small smile. I do, but 15 years in a wheelchair. I hardly believe it is possible anymore. Dr. Kale shook his head. Impossible is a word humans often use when they have not yet tried. I cannot promise miracles, Princess, but I can promise effort, persistence, and ingenuity. Ilara felt a flicker of hope, the first real one in over a decade. She leaned forward slightly. And you think humans can do what Virelia's finest could not? I do, Dr. Kale said simply. Humans have a long history of turning dreams into reality. Sometimes the key is not what we already know, but how we think about what seems impossible. The princess studied him for a long moment. Something inside her stirred, a mixture of hope, curiosity, and determination. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to believe. Over the following days, Dr. Kale examined her carefully. He measured her, scanned her nervous system, and studied every detail of her condition. Ilara endured long hours of tests and discussions, but she welcomed it. Each session brought a new possibility, a new plan, a new step toward the freedom she had longed for. What kind of machine would let me walk again? She asked one evening, watching the twin suns dip below the horizon. Dr. Kale smiled. A suit, an exoskeleton, powered not just by motors but by your thoughts. It would move as you intend, as if your legs had returned, but stronger and more precise than ever. It will take time, patience, and courage, Princess. But it can be done, Ilara's eyes sparkled. The idea of walking, of moving freely across the palace halls, across the gardens, even stepping into the outside world without being confined to wheels. It was intoxicating. 15 years of waiting, 15 years of longing seemed suddenly within reach, and yet fear lingered. What if she failed? What if her body rejected the technology? What if 15 years of weakness could not be overcome? She looked at Dr. Kale, searching for a hint of doubt. But she found none. Only belief. Then we shall try, she said firmly. We will make it happen. Dr. Kale nodded. Yes, Princess. Step by step we will make it happen. As the night deepened and the palace grew quiet, Ilara sat by her window once more. The stars of Virelia shimmered in the dark sky, countless lights stretching across the universe. For the first time in 15 years, she allowed herself to dream, not just of walking, but of living. She imagined stepping out of her wheelchair, feeling the soft grass under her feet, feeling the wind rush past her legs, and standing tall once again. Hope, fragile but persistent, had returned. And with it a spark of something even stronger, determination. For Princess Ilara, the journey was only beginning. But she knew one thing clearly. No matter how long it had taken, no matter how impossible it had seemed, she was ready to rise. The morning sun rose over the palace of Virelia, spilling golden light across its marble towers and gardens. Princess Ilara sat by her window, her fingers brushing the pages of an old robotics manual. Today, however, her thoughts were not on books or dreams alone. Today, the human inventor she had met briefly the day before, Dr. Kale Donovan, was scheduled to begin his work on her case. Ilara's heart beat faster than it had in years. 15 years of sitting in a wheelchair had taught her patience and caution, but now a sense of excitement coursed through her veins. Could this human from a distant planet really do what no Virelian scientist had managed? Could she truly walk again? When the palace doors opened, Dr. Kale entered with his small team of engineers. His steps were confident, and his eyes sparkled with curiosity as he surveyed the room. Strange devices, half-built robotic limbs, and glowing holographic screens filled the space. For the first time in years, Ilara did not feel like a prisoner of her own room. She felt the stirrings of hope. Good morning, Princess Ilara. Doctor, Kale said warmly. I trust you slept well? I did, she replied, her voice carrying both nerves and determination. Are you ready to begin? I am, Kale said. But first, we need to understand everything about you, your body, your limitations, and your mind. The exoskeleton I plan to build for you will not just move your legs. It will connect with your thoughts, respond to your intentions. That is the key to walking again. Ilara's curiosity flared. She leaned forward in her wheelchair. It will listen to my thoughts? Kale nodded. Yes. Sensors will read your brain signals and convert them into movements. Your legs will move as you wish, but it will take practice. Your body has not walked in years, so we must retrain it to trust itself again. Ilara's mind swirled with excitement and anxiety. Could she really do it? Could she trust this human, this technology, and her own body to work together again? The first days were filled with tests and measurements. Kyle's team attached small neural sensors to Ilara's head, mapped her leg muscles, and monitored every nerve signal she could produce. The process was long and exhausting. Ilara's hands ached from gripping the wheelchair's arms, her mind ached from concentration, but she never complained. Each test, each failure, was a step closer to the impossible. "This is remarkable," Kyle said one afternoon, adjusting a sensor on her temple. "Your brain signals are clear and strong. Your body remembers movement even though it hasn't walked in years. That is very rare." Ilara smiled faintly. "Does that mean I can walk?" Kyle's expression softened. "It means that with patience, courage, and persistence, you will." By the end of the week, the first prototype of the robotic legs was ready. They were sleek, metallic, and lightweight, designed to fit snugly over her own legs. Wires ran from the sensors on her head down to the exoskeleton's control module. The machine hummed softly as it powered on, lights blinking across its surface like a heartbeat. Ilara felt a mixture of fear and anticipation. She had imagined this moment countless times, yet nothing could have prepared her for the reality of it. The legs seemed alive, waiting for her command. "Remember," Kale said gently, "this is a partnership. The legs respond to your thoughts, but your mind must guide them, step by step. Do not rush. We begin slowly." Ilara took a deep breath. She closed her eyes and focused on the sensation of standing, imagining her legs moving beneath her. Slowly, with Kale's guidance, she lifted herself from the wheelchair. The exoskeleton supported her weight perfectly, but her balance wavered. She teetered slightly, her arms gripping the frame of the device, but she did not fall. I'm standing," she whispered, astonished. "Yes," Kale said, smiling. "And you will walk." The first attempts to move were awkward. Each step was mechanical, jerky, and unnatural. Ilara's body protested, her muscles stiff from years of inactivity. She stumbled, swayed, and nearly fell several times. Yet Kale's voice was steady, encouraging her through every failure. "Focus on your mind, princess. Imagine the steps clearly. Trust yourself. Trust the machine." Hours passed. Sunlight streamed through the workshop windows and the twin moons of Viralia began to rise. Slowly, Ilara's movements became smoother. One careful step after another, she began to walk. Not perfectly, but steadily. The first victory was hers, fragile and small, yet it filled her with a rush of joy she had not felt in 15 years. "Again," Kale urged, smiling. "Do it again, and again. Each step strengthens your body and your mind." Days turned into weeks. Ilara practiced tirelessly, her determination growing stronger with every attempt. The exoskeleton responded beautifully, learning her patterns and adapting to her movements. Soon, she could walk across the workshop, with minimal assistance, even turn corners and climb small steps. But the road was not easy. Her body ached, her muscles burned, and her mind sometimes faltered. She fell more than once, tears of frustration sliding down her cheeks. Each time, Kale encouraged her patiently. "You are stronger than you realize." "Princess," he said one evening, helping her sit after a long practice. "Humans often push beyond what seems possible, and so do you." Ilara looked at him, her golden eyes shining. "It is because of you," she said softly. "I could not do this alone." Kyle shook his head. "No, it is because of you. I only provide the tools. You are the one who dares to stand, who dares to try. That is what makes humans, and you, extraordinary." The weeks passed. Slowly, the palace staff began to notice the changes. The princess was no longer confined to her wheelchair for long periods. She moved with purpose, walking from room to room, her confidence growing each day. Courtiers whispered in awe about the human technology and the princess who had defied 15 years of paralysis. One afternoon, Ilara decided to leave the workshop and step into the palace gardens. The sun warmed her face and a gentle breeze brushed against her hair. She felt the grass beneath her feet, soft and real, not just imagined. She walked carefully, but with increasing grace, past flowers and fountains she had only seen from above. Birds sang and hover drones buzzed softly in the distance, but she barely noticed. She felt alive, truly alive. Kale watched from behind, smiling quietly. "This is what I dreamed of," he said softly to himself. "To see someone rise again. To see hope made real." Ilara turned her head, sensing his presence. "Thank you, Kale," she said, her voice steady and full of gratitude, "for giving me the chance to live again." Kale shook his head. "I did not give you life, Princess. You gave yourself this life. Humans invent, yes, but they also inspire. And your courage inspires me." For the first time in years, Ilara felt truly free. The wheelchair was no longer a prison. It was a memory, a reminder of the years she had endured and the strength she had found within herself. Walking was no longer a dream. It was reality, step by step, moment by moment. Yet deep inside, both Ilara and Kyle knew that this was only the beginning. The exoskeleton had given her mobility, but the world outside was vast and unpredictable. Challenges awaited, dangers she could not yet foresee. And somewhere in the distance, not everyone would celebrate the human technology that had restored the princess's legs. But for now, Princess Ilara walked. She walked under the twin suns, across the gardens, through corridors of marble and light, and for the first time in 15 years, she felt the limitless possibility of life stretching before her. It was a small victory, yes, but one that would echo far beyond the palace walls. Ilara smiled, her heart beating with joy and determination. She would walk, she would run, and one day, she would show the universe what humans, and humans working with Virelia, could truly achieve. The morning light spilled across the palace workshop as Princess Ilara stretched her arms, testing the limits of her robotic legs. The first few weeks had been exhausting, filled with failures, stumbles, and frustration. But now a new feeling had begun to take root inside her, a cautious confidence. Each day, she walked farther, balanced better, and moved with a rhythm that had been impossible just a month ago. Dr. Cale Donovan stood nearby, adjusting the sensors on her exoskeleton with practiced precision. His human eyes sparkled with pride. "You are improving faster than I expected, Princess," he said. "Your body is remembering movement. Your brain is learning to trust itself again, and your determination, well, it's extraordinary." Ilara smiled faintly, wiping sweat from her brow. "Extraordinary is not the word I would use," she said. "I just want to walk as freely as I once did, and maybe a little better." Kale laughed softly. "Better, yes, because this exoskeleton can do more than human legs, but the real strength comes from you, not the machine." The early days had been painfully slow. She remembered her first attempts, the jerky movements, the awkward balance, the fear of falling. Every step required immense concentration. Her muscles, weakened from 15 years of inactivity, ached in protest. She had cried more than once, frustrated that her body seemed to betray her. But Kale's constant encouragement, his faith in her, had kept her moving forward. "Princess," he said one morning, "today we try something new. I want you to walk through the palace halls, around obstacles, and even climb a short flight of stairs. It will challenge your balance and coordination." Ilara's stomach twisted with nerves. Walking freely in the controlled environment of the workshop was one thing, but the palace halls were wide, open, and filled with distractions. The thought of stairs made her pulse quicken. Yet deep down she knew she could do it. 15 years of longing, 15 years of determination had prepared her for this moment. She took a deep breath, focused her mind, and began. Step by careful step, she moved through the workshop doorway and into the long, echoing corridor. The exoskeleton hummed softly as if it understood her intent. Her legs, once powerless, now carried her weight with grace and precision. At first, her movements were hesitant. Each footfall felt heavy, deliberate. The polished floors reflected her image, a princess rising from decades of stillness. But with each step, her confidence grew. She turned corners smoothly, navigated around pillars, and even paused to greet astonished attendants who had gathered to watch her progress. "Your Highness," one young attendant whispered, eyes wide with amazement. You're walking." Ilara smiled, a mixture of pride and joy. "Yes," she said simply. "I am walking." The real test came with the stairs. Cal positioned himself at the bottom, offering guidance. The steps were wide and steep, a challenge even for someone with strong legs. Ilara paused at the foot of the staircase, feeling a twinge of fear. But she remembered Kael's words: trust herself, trust the machine, and focus on each movement. With a deep breath, she placed her right foot on the first step. The exoskeleton responded perfectly, lifting and supporting her weight. Slowly, she moved her left foot up, then right again, then left. Each motion was precise, deliberate. Halfway up, her muscles screamed in protest, but she refused to stop. Kael's steady encouragement echoed in her mind. "You are stronger than you think, Princess. Keep going." Finally, she reached the top. Ilara paused, chest heaving, a triumphant smile spreading across her face. She had done it. After 15 years of immobility, she had climbed stairs. She was not just walking, she was overcoming. The palace staff erupted in quiet applause. Some had doubted, some had pitied her, but now they watched in awe as the princess moved with a grace and determination that inspired everyone in the room. Even the palace guards, stoic and disciplined, could not hide their admiration. Over the next several days, Ilara pushed herself further. She practiced walking longer distances, weaving through furniture, and navigating outdoor paths in the palace gardens. The exoskeleton was no longer a foreign machine. It had become an extension of her body, responding to her thoughts and intentions as naturally as her own legs once had. Yet challenges remained. There were moments of doubt, moments when fatigue threatened to overwhelm her. A misstep could cause a stumble, and each time she felt the fear of falling. But she learned to rise quickly, to trust the exoskeleton and her own strength. Kael taught her techniques to maintain balance, methods to coordinate her mind and body, and ways to anticipate her movements. One afternoon, as the twin suns cast long shadows across the palace gardens, Ilara paused to rest. She had been walking, continuously for over an hour, tracing paths she had once only dreamed of traversing. The flowers swayed in the warm breeze and birds sang in the branches above. For the first time in years, Ilara felt connected to the world around her, not just a spectator, but an active participant. Kael approached, carrying a small tray of water and energy pods. "You've done well today," he said, setting the tray beside her. "Your progress is remarkable." Ilara took a sip of water, her gaze distant. "It's more than progress," she said softly. "It feels alive. My legs feel alive again." Kael nodded. "That is the power of determination, and a little human ingenuity." Ilara laughed lightly. "Yes, the human part is important too." As days turned into weeks, news of her progress spread throughout Viralia. Citizens, nobles, and even distant kingdoms heard of the princess who had spent 15 years in a wheelchair but now walked with robotic legs. Curiosity and admiration filled the air. People came to watch her practice, inspired by her courage and persistence. But Ilara did not walk for recognition. She walked because it was her right, her dream, and her choice. Each step was a victory, over fear, over time, and over the limitations that had once bound her. One evening, Kael suggested a new exercise: running. At first, Ilara laughed at the idea. Running seemed impossible, even reckless. But Kael explained that with the exoskeleton, it was achievable. The device could handle the impact, stabilize her balance, and respond to her commands instantly. Reluctantly, she agreed. The first attempts were cautious, tiny steps that mimicked jogging. Her heart raced, her breath came in shallow bursts. But she did not stop. Step by step, she increased her speed. The exoskeleton adjusted automatically, absorbing shocks and maintaining perfect balance. Finally, she broke into a full run, the wind rushing past her face, the palace gardens blurring into a streak of green and gold. For 15 years, she had been confined, restrained, and limited. Now she moved freely, stronger than she had ever been. Tears welled in her eyes, not from pain but from pure exhilaration. Kale stood nearby, clapping softly. "You've done it, Princess," he said. "You are walking, running, and inspiring everyone who sees you." Elara stopped, panting but triumphant. "I couldn't have done it without you," she said sincerely. Kyle shook his head. "No, Princess, you did this. I only guided you. Humans build machines, yes, but the true power comes from within. Your courage, determination, and spirit made this possible." For the first time in years, Elara felt complete freedom. She had conquered her fears, her limitations, and the years of despair. She walked, ran, and even climbed, proving that nothing, not time, not injury, not doubt, could stop someone determined to rise. As she gazed across the palace gardens, she realized something profound. This journey was not just about walking. It was about reclaiming her life, her independence, and her identity. She had been a princess in a wheelchair for 15 years, but now she was a leader, a symbol of hope and a testament to what humans, through ingenuity and determination, could achieve. And deep in her heart, she knew that this was only the beginning. The exoskeleton had restored her legs, but it had also awakened a new vision, one where technology, courage, and human ingenuity could overcome even the greatest challenges. Elara lifted her head, feeling the warmth of the sun on her face and the gentle hum of the exoskeleton beneath her legs. She walked forward step by step, ready to face whatever the future held. The world was no longer something she observed from a distance. It was hers to explore, to conquer, and to transform. For Princess Elara, 15 years of stillness had ended, and the triumph of human spirit and technology had only just begun. The palace of Virelia was alive with energy. News of Princess Elara's remarkable recovery had spread across the planet like wildfire. Courtiers, citizens, and even visitors from distant kingdoms came to witness the princess who had spent 15 years in a wheelchair, but now walked and even ran, thanks to human technology. Elara had become a symbol of hope, determination, and the power of human ingenuity. Yet not everyone celebrated her triumph. Far beyond the twin suns of Virelia, in the shadowed halls of the rival kingdom of Tharion, whispers of the princess's robotic legs had reached ears that hungered for power. Their leaders saw not inspiration but opportunity, a chance to seize advanced technology for themselves, to build an army stronger than anything Virelia had ever seen. One evening, as the twin moons rose and cast silver light across the palace gardens, Elara trained with her exoskeleton. Step by careful step, she moved through the winding paths, her balance perfect, her confidence unwavering. The wind swept past her face, carrying the scent of blooming flowers and fresh grass. It was a moment of pure freedom, yet something in her mind felt uneasy, a faint whisper of warning that she could not ignore. Dr. Kale watched from the workshop doorway, observing her form. "You're moving beautifully, Princess," he said. "Your strides are steady and your reflexes—" "Incredible," Elara smiled. "I feel—" "Unstoppable," she admitted. But even as she spoke, a shadow passed over her thoughts. Could someone misuse this technology? Could the very thing that gave her freedom be turned into a weapon? Kale followed her gaze. "It's possible," he said quietly. "That is why we must be cautious. Innovation is powerful, but it always comes with responsibility." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden alarm from the palace security network. Red lights flashed along the corridors. Guards shouted orders as they raced to their stations. Elara's heart pounded. Something was happening. "Princess, stay here," Kale shouted. But Elara's instincts refused. She would not sit idly while danger approached. The exoskeleton hummed beneath her, ready. Together they moved toward the palace entrance. Outside, shadows flitted between the outer walls. A small squad of Tharion agents had infiltrated the palace, their goal clear: steal the exoskeleton and take the princess hostage. They were armed, disciplined, and dangerous, but they had not counted on the combination of Elara's determination and Kale's quick thinking. Step back, Kale said, reaching for a control panel that activated security protocols. Holographic barriers flickered to life, cutting off certain corridors and creating obstacles. Ilara's mind raced. She could move now, faster than any ordinary human and with precision far beyond normal strength. The first intruder lunged toward her, a sleek metal blade glinting in the moonlight. Ilara sidestepped, her movements fluid, almost like dancing. The exoskeleton absorbed the force, stabilizing her stance. She kicked, not to harm, but to unbalance the attacker, sending him sprawling to the side. Kale activated another security measure, locking the corridor behind him. More intruders appeared, moving in coordinated patterns. Ilara focused, her mind clear, each thought translating into precise movements. She dodged, blocked, and turned, her legs carrying her swiftly and efficiently across the marble floor. The palace guards joined the defense, astonished by her speed and agility. "Princess, you're incredible," shouted one guard. "How are you? Moving like that?" Ilara did not answer. She could not. Her concentration was absolute. Each step, each movement was critical. The exoskeleton amplified her strength, but her courage and quick thinking guided every action. She realized then that walking was no longer the goal. Survival and protection were. Kyle worked beside her, coordinating traps, activating energy barriers, and guiding the palace staff to safety. His mind, brilliant and quick, complemented Ilara's physical prowess perfectly. Together, human ingenuity and princess determination formed a seamless team. One intruder approached with a projectile weapon. Ilara calculated the trajectory instantly. She jumped, propelled by the exoskeleton, and grabbed the device mid-air before it could harm anyone. With a swift movement, she hurled it harmlessly into a wall. The intruder stumbled back, stunned. "You see, Princess," Kale said, breathless but exhilarated. "Humans do more than build machines. We think, adapt, and act. And today that combination is unstoppable." Ilara nodded, determination blazing in her golden eyes. "Then let's stop them," she said. The intruders pressed forward, relentless and coordinated. Ilara ran down a long corridor, weaving through obstacles with ease. Each movement was precise, graceful, and powerful. The exoskeleton responded flawlessly. Translating her thoughts into action, she could climb walls, leap gaps, and pivot faster than anyone expected. Every step showcased not only human technology, but human courage, determination, and ingenuity. Kale watched, amazed. This is beyond anything I imagined," he murmured. Not just the technology, but her spirit. Ilara's heart raced, but she never faltered. She moved like a force of nature, protecting the palace and her people. The intruders, trained and ruthless, began to falter under the combined brilliance of human technology and Ilara's unstoppable resolve. Finally, the last intruder attempted a desperate attack, rushing toward Kyle. Ilara reacted instantly. She intercepted, blocking the assault, and with careful precision disarmed the enemy without causing permanent harm. The intruder collapsed, subdued. Silence fell over the palace. Guards secured the remaining areas, and the Therian agents were captured. For the first time in years, Ilara allowed herself to exhale fully. Her legs trembled not from weakness, but from adrenaline and the weight of what had just happened. Kale placed a hand on her shoulder, smiling. "You see, Princess, humans adapt. Humans innovate, and humans, when they work with courage and determination, can face anything." Ilara's gaze swept across the palace, now safe, and the gardens beyond. She realized something profound. Walking was not enough. True strength came from the courage to act, to protect, and to rise to the occasion. Her exoskeleton was more than a tool. It was a symbol of human potential, a bridge between technology and spirit. Word of the thwarted attack spread quickly. Citizens marveled not only at the exoskeleton, but at the princess who had defended her people. Children whispered stories of her courage, and leaders of distant kingdoms began to reconsider their views of humans and Virelians working together. Yet, despite the victory, Ilara knew the challenges were far from over. Therian would not stop easily, and the world beyond Virelia held unknown threats. But for the first time in her life, she felt ready. She had faced danger, adapted, and overcome. She had proven that human innovation, combined with courage and determination, could triumph even against the odds. That evening, as the twin moons reflected on the palace's golden towers, Ilara stood at the top of the tallest balcony, looking out across the city. Her legs, once powerless, now carried her with ease. The exoskeleton hummed softly beneath her, a reminder of the possibilities humans could create. Kyle joined her, his gaze thoughtful. "You handled that brilliantly," he said. "Not many could have done what you did today." Ilara smiled faintly. "It was not just me. It was the technology. It was the training, and it was your guidance. But most of all, it was the belief that humans can rise to the impossible." Kale nodded. "That belief, it is what makes humans extraordinary. And today, you proved it to the world." Ilara looked at the horizon, the city lights twinkling like stars. The danger had passed, but her journey was far from over. She had gained her legs, her freedom, and a new understanding of her own strength. She knew now that no challenge, no matter how impossible it seemed, could hold her back if she combined courage, determination, and the brilliance of human innovation. She flexed her exoskeleton-enhanced legs, testing their strength. The palace was quiet, the attack thwarted, and yet Ilara felt alive in a way she had never felt before. Her journey of walking had transformed into a journey of rising, of leading, and of inspiring. For Princess Ilara, 15 years of confinement had ended. For the first time in her life, she could move freely, act decisively, and face the world with confidence. And the universe, with all its dangers and possibilities, had yet to see the true extent of human ingenuity and courage. Ilara smiled, feeling the warmth of the twin moons on her face. She had walked. She had run. And now she had fought and won. Step by step, the princess had become a symbol of hope, strength, and the remarkable potential of humans working together with determination and heart. The journey was far from over. But Princess Ilara, with her robotic legs and unbreakable spirit, was ready. The morning light spilled across Virelia's capital, casting long shadows of the palace towers over the bustling streets below. Princess Ilara stood on the balcony of her chamber, the exoskeleton fitted perfectly to her legs. She breathed in the crisp air, feeling the familiar hum of the machine beneath her as if it were part of her body. For 15 years she had dreamed of walking. Now she walked, ran, and moved with a confidence that inspired everyone around her. The events of the past weeks had changed everything. Her victory over the Therian intruders had proven her courage and the power of human innovation. Citizens whispered in admiration, courtiers bowed with respect, and children played in the palace gardens, imagining themselves running as fast as the princess who had defied the impossible. Ilara turned to Dr. Cale Donovan, who stood beside her, quietly observing the city. "It feels different now," she said softly. "Not just walking, but living, leading, inspiring." Kyle smiled, adjusting a small control module on her exoskeleton. "That is because you are more than just a princess now, Ilara. You are a symbol. Humans have always faced impossible challenges, but we rise to them. You've done the same." Ilara's golden eyes sparkled. "I could not have done it without your guidance, Kyle. And yet, I feel as though the legs are only part of the story. The courage, the determination, that is what truly made it possible." Kyle nodded. "Exactly. The machine is remarkable, yes, but it is the human spirit that gives it life." The palace doors opened, and her attendants entered, carrying scrolls of news and messages from across Virelia. Reports poured in from citizens who had witnessed her feats, children learning to walk again with exoskeletons inspired by her, adults daring to try new inventions, and engineers eager to collaborate with Kale to bring new technologies to the people. Ilara smiled. This is what I hoped for. A chance to help others, to share what I have learned." Kyle placed a hand on her shoulder. "And you will. You are not just walking for yourself anymore. You are walking for everyone who has ever been told they could not." In the following days, Ilara began programs across the city to distribute exoskeletons to those in need. Hospitals, schools, and rehabilitation centers worked with Kale's team to adapt the technology for civilians. Citizens marveled at the human ability to invent, to improve lives, and to inspire courage. The palace buzzed with energy as engineers, doctors, and volunteers worked together to create a new era of mobility and opportunity. One afternoon, Ilara and Kale visited a rehabilitation center where children with disabilities were learning to walk using prototype exoskeletons. She watched as a small boy no older than 7 took his first steps with the machine. His eyes lit up with wonder and joy. Alara knelt beside him. "You see? You can do it. Step by step, just like I did." The boy grinned, taking a hesitant step forward. Then another. Soon, he was walking confidently, laughing with delight. Alara felt a warmth spread through her chest. This was why she had endured 15 years of confinement. This was why she had trained, struggled, and risen. She had not only reclaimed her own life, she had given hope to countless others. Kyle watched the scene quietly, pride shining in his eyes. "Humans have a gift," he said softly. "We create, we inspire, and we lift each other. You have shown that in a way no one could forget." Alara nodded, her heart full. "And now, it is time to lead, not just as a princess, but as someone who shows what is possible." Word of her programs and initiatives spread beyond Viralia. Other kingdoms sent envoys to learn from her and Kale. They marveled at the combination of human ingenuity and royal leadership, eager to adopt similar technologies in their own lands. The princess's story became a symbol of hope and progress, showing that humans, and those who embrace their innovations, could overcome challenges once deemed insurmountable. But Alara's journey was not without reflection. 15 years in a wheelchair had taught her patience, empathy, and the value of persistence. She remembered the nights of longing, the pain of immobility, and the frustration of being unable to move. Those years had shaped her as much as the exoskeleton had. She had learned that strength was not only physical, it was mental, emotional, and moral. One evening she stood at the palace gardens watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of crimson and gold. Kale approached quietly. "You've come a long way, princess," he said. Alara smiled. "Not just me. Humans have come a long way. And together, we can go even further." Kale nodded. "That is the beauty of it. The courage to act, the creativity to build, and the determination to rise. That is what changes the world." Alara flexed her exoskeleton legs, feeling the strength coursing through her. She had walked, run, fought, and inspired. She had become more than a princess confined to a wheelchair. She had become a leader, a symbol, and a living example of the power of human spirit and technology combined. The twin moons rose over Viralia, casting silver light on the palace. Alara and Kale walked together through the gardens, the soft hum of the exoskeleton beneath her legs blending with the quiet sounds of the night. Citizens watched in awe from a distance, whispering tales of the princess who had defied 15 years of paralysis. Alara stopped at the fountain at the center of the garden, reflecting on her journey. She remembered the first day she had met Kyle, the doubts, the pain, the first awkward steps, and the slow triumphs. She had endured hardships, faced fear, and pushed beyond limits. And now, she stood as a living testament to what humans and human-inspired technology could achieve. "Kyle," she said softly, do you think others will believe this is possible for them too?" Kyle smiled. "They will, princess, because they see it in you. They see courage, determination, and hope walking before them. And hope is contagious." Alara nodded, feeling a surge of pride and purpose. She knew that her journey had only just begun. The exoskeleton had given her legs, but it had also given her a mission: to inspire, to lead, and to show that humans and those who embraced human ingenuity could rise to any challenge. Over the following months, Alara continued to walk, run, and train. She explored parts of Viralia she had never seen, from the high towers of the palace to the bustling city streets and the quiet forests beyond. With each step, she strengthened not only her body but her mind and spirit. She met citizens, listened to their stories, and encouraged them to pursue their own dreams, no matter how impossible they seemed. Kyle worked tirelessly alongside her, improving the exoskeletons, teaching others how to use them, and sharing his knowledge. Together they created a new era on Viralia, one where technology, courage, and human determination combined to uplift the entire society. One evening, as the city celebrated a festival of lights, Alara stood atop the palace balcony, looking down. At the streets filled with people dancing, laughing, and moving freely, children ran with small exoskeletons. Adults experimented with new technologies, and engineers demonstrated inventions inspired by human creativity. Alara felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had walked, yes, but she had also led, inspired, and transformed a world. 15 years of stillness had ended, replaced by action, possibility, and hope. Kale joined her, standing quietly beside her. "You did more than walk, Princess," he said. "You changed a world." Alara smiled, her eyes shining with determination and joy. "We changed a world, Kale. Humans, technology, and courage together, and there is still more to do." The twin moons rose high in the sky, casting silver light across the palace. Alara flexed her exoskeleton legs, feeling the strength and freedom she had gained. She had conquered fear, defied expectations, and walked beyond the limits of possibility. For Princess Alara, the journey had begun 15 years ago with longing and hope. Now, it continued as a story of triumph, inspiration, and the remarkable power of humans, creators, thinkers, and dreamers, working together to rise above every challenge. The palace bells rang across Virelia, announcing a new day, a new era, and a future filled with possibility. Alara took a step forward, then another, her golden eyes fixed on the horizon. She walked with purpose, with pride, and with the knowledge that anything was possible.